Hello, my name is François Bonneau. I am a researcher at the RING team, which is a part of the GeoResource Laboratory funded by the Ring OCAD Consortium. The team is located in the Nancy School of Geology in the University of Lorraine. In this lecture, I will present you a methodology to simulate correlated discrete fracture network constrained by microseismic data. During my presentation, I will talk about discrete fracture network modeling, and I will show you how to describe and represent fracture network using discrete objects. How to integrate microseismic data in a discrete fracture network modeling, and how to simulate correlated discrete fracture network. Fractures are complex mechanical discontinuities. Their description are difficult because we are dealing with sparse and uncertain data. At the reservoir scale, fracture characterization calls for geometrical simplification. Fractures are often simplified using a simple parametrization that reduces fracture to planar objects. These planar objects are often parameterized with a position and a shape and dimension. To describe a fracture network, we have to deal with statistics. These statistics have to be done at several scales because we are dealing with objects that observe a fractal geometry. Distribution laws are defined on each fracture parameters, and to do that, we need to consider a collection of independent and planar objects. So we can do the distribution law on orientation, dimension, and we also have to characterize the spatial repartition of fractures. Starting from these statistics, we can generate fracture network. To do so, the classical approach is to use a classic Poisson point process to generate the position, and at each position we can draw parameters in a fracture parameter distribution law. So we have to draw the orientation and the dimension of fractures. Once we do that, we have a lot of simulated discrete fracture networks that are all equiprobable and honor the statistics of the fracture network. But fracture networks are not only done by independent objects, but we can observe spatial organization. This spatial organization can be observed on the orientation of fracture, and you can describe it by dealing with fracture sets. You can quantify the correlation on the dimension using the connectivity factor, and you can also deal with the spatial correlation on the fracture repartition when you are dealing with some spacing and clustering matrix. We use the data available at Soulsous-Forêt, which is a deep geothermal exchanger in the northeast of France. Several wells have been drilled, and we have some core, log, and vertical seismic profile on it. We focus on the three main wells that have been drilled in the deep reservoir. The granite is highly fractured, and there is two conjugate fracture sets. These fractures are mostly subvertical. And as at depth, we suspect a reorientation of fracture due to the presence of two facies. To confirm this hypothesis, we propose to investigate the organization of microseismic events that appear in this part of the reservoir. Microseismic events are low magnitude events, and these events are often supposed to be related to the fracture initiation, growth, and coalescence. Starting from this assumption, we use some pattern recognition algorithm to investigate the event alignment, and we particularly use the Hauff transform, which is a change of coordinate space. The idea is to represent each position of the Cartesian space with the intersection of every line that are passing through this position. And each line is represented by two parameters, which is the distance from the origin and the orientation of the line. This is right in 2D. In 3D, you have to add another angle to complete the orientation of the plane. Then we add some tolerance on the orientation, on the distance, and we discretize the Hauff space, building what we call the Hauff accumulator. The idea is that each point that appears in the blue area is in the blue cell of the Hauff accumulator. By transforming in each position with this Hauff transform, we can count the number of events that appear on each plane. And then we weight and normalize the count to build the fracture orientation probability map. This quantifies the number of the probability for each plane to hide at least one fracture. We did this transformation on the data available at Sulsu4A. And as you can see on this slide, we confirm that at depth there is a reorientation of the fracture azimuth. This is how we propose to integrate this fracture orientation map in the stochastic discrete fracture network modeling. So we start from microseismic event and we build the fracture orientation probability map. Then we start from the Poisson point process to generate the position of fracture, and we extract a reduced probability map that consider only the plane that are passing through the position where we want to simulate the fracture. Then we sample the orientation probability map and we set the geometry of fracture. Analyzing microseismic data is an interesting point because it brings information at depth and far from well on the fracture network, and it allows to complete the statistical description of the fracture network. But we have to be sure of what we can extract from this data. What about the uncertainty? What are the fractures really highlighted by the microseismic data? We are investigating the relationship between the fractures and the microseismic activity at core scale with some partners in the frame of a national project called GeoTref. Now, let's talk about the spatial correlation that we want to impose in our discrete fracture network model. In this part, I will present you a methodology that is based on mechanical rules. For this method, we use planar fractures. And instead of simulating only planar fractures, we will complete the parametrization with the impact of the fracture on the stress field. We will simulate the shadow zone and the stress concentration zone. And each zone will have an impact on the simulation process. The stress concentration zone will enhance the creation of new fractures, and the shadow zone will stop new nucleation. How it works? We use a classical Poisson point process to quantify the number of fractures that we want to simulate in the volume. But instead of simulating every fracture at the same time, we will do it by sequence. And so we have to compute the probability to accept and reject each fracture. We simulate the geometry of fracture on selected fracture seed, and then we simulate the mechanical model around each fracture. And we rerun the classical Poisson point process, and for each potential fracture center, we count the number of stress concentration zone and shadow zone that include each fracture center. And we use that number to weight the probability to keep or reject each fracture seed. We do that until we completely fill the volume with fractures, and here is the kind of result we obtain. As you can see on the first line, there is the kind of model we obtain with the classical approach, and there is no organization in the fracture network. At the bottom, you can see what we obtain with the sequential Poisson point process, and you can see that small fractures are clustered at the tip of largest one. We can quantify the spatial correlation of each model, and in the first case, we compute the correlation dimension of 3 in the 3D space, so there is no organization in the fracture model. But in the second case, we observe a reduced correlation dimension that characterizes the spatial organization of the fracture network. So this method allows us to constrain the spatial correlation in the fracture network. We investigated the impact of spatial correlation on the percolation. We simulate 1000 DFN realization at percolation state for classical Poisson point process and for a sequential Poisson point process. And we compute the percolation factor. Here is the result. And on this graph, you can see that the spatial correlation seems to reduce the percolation threshold. So it should impact the flow simulation. In this part, we study the impact of the spatial correlation on the local connectivity. As you can see on the graph, uncorrelated discrete fracture network seems to follow a simple and uniform model. The number of intersections per fracture seems to only depend on the fracture length. On the contrary, the correlated discrete fracture network seems to have a more complex model. Small fractures have a higher number of intersections than larger ones. It underlines the two behaviors that can be related to the classical, dense and dilute fracturing process. Large fractures have grown far from other and can grow longer. Small fractures are simulated in the dense network and often connect large fractures. To conclude the second part of this e-lecture, we show that integrating mechanical concepts in a sequential Poisson process induces some spatial correlation in the model. This spatial correlation impacts the connectivity model and the percolation threshold. We have to keep working on that, and we have to investigate the impact of spatial correlation on flow simulation and more generally on physical processes. To do so, we are working on new algorithms to generate unstructured meshes in order to use new generation simulation software such as CSMP++. Our fracture model is still planar, and we tend to integrate more complexity in the fracture geometry. Finally, we are thinking about integrating the new rules in the sequential Poisson process in order to take into account more complex fracture network organization. This is the end of my e-lecture. I would like to thank the sponsor of the Ring-GoCAD Consortium for funding this research and Paradigm Geophysical for providing the GoCAD software and API. Thank you for your attention. You can like and share this video. For more e-lectures, please take a look at the EAGE playlist.